So how hard is it to be an entrepreneur? Well, for starters, I actually look forward to the day when the media kind of just lets go of this term, because it's kind of a process at any rate. I mean, if you want to class an entrepreneur, somebody that's starting a business, and then growing it, and eventually your role, if you stay with the business, is you kind of morph into the CEO or the COO, or sort of you kind of morph in terms of roles. I was actually asked this not as a direct question. It was like, how hard is it to do this? And it's harder than a lot of people think, and I think that's to do with the way the media kind of portrays it. They portray entrepreneurs as driving around in fast cars and so forth, and the reality is a lot of us right at those early stages, we're huddled over a laptop. It's like, sort of 1 a.m. in the morning, and we're trying to figure out a problem. And I think that this is an important point, because to a certain extent, the whole idea of entrepreneurism has been romanticized a lot, and a lot of the times it's being an entrepreneur is actually dead easy, because if you don't actually get ahead and launch the company, all you're doing is talking about it. And I do see that a lot. There's a lot of talk about businesses. There's a lot of advice about how to be an entrepreneur and how to do this and how to do that. But it's just words. It's just talk. And some of the realities about being an entrepreneur, and more importantly, transitioning, sort of into more of a structured company, is the decisions you make. And I genuinely believe that being an entrepreneur is actually the hardest thing out there in terms of job positions. Now, I'm sure people will agree with me, and I hope you do, and you can put your reasons down in the comments for it. But there are very few jobs where your decisions could ultimately influence and affect hundreds, if not thousands of people. Even in a small company, when even if you've got a team of sort of 10 or 20 people, your decision that you make on a daily basis, and something you'll notice about entrepreneurs is we kind of make decisions like this. We're making them constantly because we're trying to drive things forward. You make it wrong, and that could end up costing the entire team their job, because if the business collapses, the job goes away. And then you've got all the people, or you've got all the suppliers and all the other businesses that are kind of, connected to yours in terms of supplying services, all of that. And that is a very real pressure that exists. And I don't think it's fully appreciated, sort of in the early stages of when you're kind of starting out. It's great to think of a great, big, huge idea, and it's great to think of, I call them armchair entrepreneurs, and they're, and it's pretty much people that just spend their life talking about what they're going to do, and, and aiming at this sort of massive goal, which is great unless you have actual actionable steps to get there. I was talking with someone just the other day, and, their plan is to basically get a $100 million IPO. I was like, okay. And so what they had was an idea and the end, and they had 0 steps in between. And what really makes a true entrepreneur, and what makes a CEO and a CFO and all of these others, is we understand how to put actionable steps in along the way. We don't just see the end goal, we actually see the pathway to it. And every single step that's actionable, we're looking to see how far off the goal we're actually going. So, when it comes down to how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, and I would rephrase the question in terms of how hard is it to to actually be a real entrepreneur and a real CEO of a company, it is one of the hardest things that you will ever do in your life. However, the rewards, and I'm not just on about from the money aspect, I'm actually on about just from just from the other type of rewards you get from seeing something grow. They're second to none, and I would recommend it to anybody, but I would definitely advise not to kid yourself that this will be easy. If you're looking to go into beginning a business on the idea that you're going to have, the time is yours, yes it is. Ultimately, initially, I guarantee you it's not. And so, I would like people to understand that more. Now, I know there's going to be plenty of entrepreneurs watching this video. I would love to know your thoughts on when you were first starting out and kind of some of the things that you went to. I mean, I will be absolutely open here. I would say during most of my 20s, I was working 100 plus hours a week. Now, right or wrong, that was my personal experience. So I guess what I'm trying to get to with this is that it's not how the media portray it, which is an important distinction to learn. It's more about being able to put everything to one side to focus on that, because you know that the end goal will give you certain freedoms back. Like, I'm able to travel the world full time now, but I mean, I'm 48. It's taken me a long time to get there, and I'm still not there. I'm not where I want to be right now. I've still got further to go, but it's a long process, and I want people to understand that, you know, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to become an overnight success, and various people have coined different versions of this phrase, that, you know, the overnight success that takes 20 years to happen, and that's very true. Any current company owners, any entrepreneurs that would give their experience in the comments, I really appreciate it. I really would like to get this type of information out there, because I do see that the media's romanticization of, is that a real word, of what an entrepreneur is, I think is damaging. I think it gives people like a false sense of what it will be, so when they get involved to it, they're not really fully prepared. So leave your comments below. I would love to read them. And of course, if you disagree with me, even more so, put them in the comments below. Thanks a lot.